they say when you lose a twin, there's the one that you lose is your sunset twin, and the one that lives is your sunrise twin. And that's exactly how it felt. Had one foot in sunrise and one foot in sunset, just like all day, every day of like, oh, he's kicking. Oh, the other one's not. Or, oh, look at him move on the ultrasound. Do you want to see Killian? Yeah, we kind of do. And it's this like decaying pile of bones.
Our TFMR stories, pregnancy loss support in the heartbreak of terminating a wanted pregnancy. I'm Sabrina. I'm a TFMR loss mom to my daughter, Clara, for hydrops, cystic hygroma, potential chromosomal defects, and my own health. My decision was for all of those factors and more. And now I help other TFMR parents in their darkest hour, parenting through the impossible. If you're listening to this, you found me, and that means you're not alone anymore. You can talk to someone about this, email me or book a call. I've been through it too, and I want to hear from you. So welcome back to another episode of our TFMR stories. I'm Sabrina Fletcher, the TFMR doula, and today I have Jayme Serbell with us. She's mom to 7 babies, 2 of which are Earthside. She's an advocate for reproductive freedom. She's a writer, and she's going to share her TFMR story with us today. Thank you, Jayme.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. These conversations need to be had, and I'm grateful that you reached out and you wanted to share your story with us.
Yeah, I fully agree. These are very important stories.
I like to start these interviews by asking for you to share a positive memory from your pregnancy.
Yeah. So genuinely probably one of the happiest moments of my entire life. So my husband and I had 3 miscarriages. That's not the happiest moment of my life, but my husband and I had 3 miscarriages. And then summer of 2020, so in the middle of COVID, we found out we were pregnant. And we had the doctor's appointment. And since it was like height of COVID stuff, they said that my husband couldn't come to the doctor, couldn't come into the office with me. He had to stay in the car. And I kind of explained to them, like, we've yet to have a good ultrasound experience. And I don't know if it's going to be easy to handle this one alone. Can you please come with me? And they talked to the higher ups and they were like, okay, you know what? He can come in with you. So they let him come in and we're doing the ultrasound and they're like, okay, here's your baby. It's wiggling around. You can see, da, da, da. And then we're smiling and talking and everyone's masked, but you could still feel the smiles. And she moves the wand over and she goes, and here's another baby. And like our whole relationship, we were always like, how cool would it be to have twins? We always wanted twins. And so, she's like, and here's another baby. And we both like squeeze each other's hands and we're like, what? And she's like, yeah, you have 2 babies in here right now. And, again, my husband's wearing a mask, but it looks like he like is holding a watermelon in his mouth. It's just like beaming past the mask and literally jumping up and down. And I'm crying with my head back. And yeah, just like genuinely the happiest day of our life. It was like, even the ultrasound tech was like teary eyed. And
Oh, that's a beautiful memory to hold on to.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love that image of his smile was as wide as a watermelon.
It really was. It was great.
Oh, yeah.
Such joy.
Were you able to have some time in the pregnancy before you knew something was going wrong? Or when did you find out that there was a diagnosis of some kind?
So it was, I want to say around 17 weeks that we found out Killian. So we have Seamus and Killian. So 17 weeks, we found out Killian had a diaphragmatic issue, like a birth defect where he had a hole in his diaphragm. And it was survivable. It would be like surgery immediately after birth, but it was survivable. But because of that, we like upped our visits and we were, just seeing them more frequently. And then at 19 weeks, it was almost 20 weeks. So like end of 19 weeks, they were like, the diaphragm issue doesn't even matter anymore. There's something more severe going on. Um,
Oh.
so halfway through the pregnancy, and the boys ended up having something called twin to twin transfusion syndrome. So in a healthy twin pregnancy, they have blood vessels attached to the placenta. And for them, some of their blood vessels were attached to each other. So they were sending blood back and forth to each other. And Killian had like a smaller part of the placenta, and Seamus had a bigger part. And Seamus was the recipient twin, and Killian was the donor twin. And Killian was not getting enough nutrients. So he was basically actively dying. He was getting not enough nutrients, that he was actively dying. He was having organ failure. And because they had those blood vessels connected, they had more than just twin to twin transfusion syndrome. They also had selective intrauterine growth restriction. So TTTS, SIUGR, and TAPS. But like the big one was TTTS. And if we had just let things play out, Killian would have died. It was that severe. Like it was inevitable he was going to die. But if we did not intervene before then, the backlash, because they had blood vessels connected, the backlash would have been so severe that it would have affected Seamus. We either would have lost him or he could have had severe brain damage. And so the way the doctor explained it to us is he was going to die regardless. We were just being proactive about how it affects Seamus. But we still had to sign like all the legal documents of termination. And even the social worker was like, luckily, you're in a state where you can do this. Yeah. So it was like, we did have a choice, but like we felt like we did not have a choice at all. It was, lose one or lose both. It was just very traumatizing, of course, knowing that so the procedure that we did was we went in and cauterized his umbilical cord. So we cut off his life support. And because of where we were in the pregnancy too, and it being a twin pregnancy, I had to carry both of them inside of me the remainder of the pregnancy. So I just sort of had this yin and yang inside of me of, life and death and what is and what was and what will be and all the things.
Yeah, and I've heard from other parents who had to have, I mean, all the terms are awful, but like the selective reduction, and then they are still carrying a living baby, or they choose to do termination for one of the fetuses, and then they are able to carry one or two other babies to term, and the doctors don't seem to carry that grief very well in the
Yeah.
process. Like they see it as a medical event in a way, and yet here you are with a dead baby that you are carrying.
Yeah.
How
I
was that
will.
for you? Did you feel, or maybe you had a better experience with your medical staff, grief wise or bereavement wise?
I will say, I feel like we had pretty good medical staff. We lived in New Mexico at the time, but they didn't have the medical equipment. So we had to go to Colorado for the procedure. It is possible that we had some not the best bedside manner once we got back to New Mexico. I don't specifically remember, to be honest. But I do remember people just being like, well, it's like a singleton pregnancy now, kind of thing. And well, it's not, but I
Which,
get it. Yeah, it's like, oh, you're normal, everything's fine. And moving on to, we were just so, especially with three previous losses and now a fourth, we were just so on edge about losing Seamus. Everything was just tunnel vision on how is he? How is he doing? Is he doing okay? Is he, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds like all of a sudden it goes from, you didn't know there was anything wrong in the pregnancy, and then you did, and then there was a decision, in quotes, I'm doing quotes with my
Totally.
fingers, there, there's like a huge medical decision that must be
Yeah.
made for one of the babies. And then it sounds like now all of a sudden you're in a pregnancy after loss, which is its
Right.
own, yeah.
While in the middle of a pregnancy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it affected so many corners of our lives that I feel like a lot of people didn't fully realize, having to go through our baby registry and turn everything from 2 items into one.
Oh,
Or like, ordering Seamus his newborn outfit while we're ordering Killian his urn is just just the dueling world that we were living in of like, they say when you lose a twin, there's the one that you lose is your sunset twin, and the one that lives is your sunrise twin. And that's exactly how it felt. Had one foot in sunrise and one foot in sunset, just like all day, every day of like, oh, he's kicking. Oh, the other one's not. Or, oh, look at him move on the ultrasound. Do you want to see Killian? Yeah, we kind of do. And it's this like decaying pile of bones.
how how did you handle the delivery? Were you able to hold him? Did they wrap him? Did you want him taken to be cremated? How did you even make that decision? That sounds very
Yeah,
hard.
we did choose that we wanted him to be cremated. The birth of it all gets kind of complicated because so we chose to do a home birth. We did it because we had the green light from everyone. We asked our OB, we asked the midwife, we even asked the fire department, and everyone was like, the high risk doctors were like, everyone's saying you're a singleton pregnancy now, so I guess it's okay. So we did a home birth, and the birth itself was like great. I mean, minus like contractions. but, but once Seamus was in our arms, then it was like, okay, now we need to deliver Killian. And I did like a tub birth, an inflatable tub water birth. And when it was time to deliver Killian, I started hemorrhaging. So then it went from like, yay, happy newborn things about to meet Killian to, oh my God, we need to get to a hospital. And we called an ambulance, and everyone gave us the green light because we were an hour away from a hospital. But waiting for an ambulance, we were actually 2 hours from a hospital. And it was really bad. I'm very lucky that I am here right now. I lost like 60% of my blood and needed 16 transfusions. But what we didn't know, so I was under the understanding that Killian was still inside of me the whole time. And it wasn't until after, so they took me to the hospital and I had a DNC for the hemorrhage. And again, with COVID, they typically wouldn't let John, like, they didn't let John or anyone in the ambulance with me, my husband. But they ended up saying, okay, you guys can come out to the hospital and like, you guys just stay in labor and delivery and we'll wheel the baby in for feedings. Um, so when John was coming out, I was out of surgery. I was finally able to call him, and he said that they found Killian in the pool, just with all the like stuff going on. He must have slid out with Seamus and no one saw him. And when they were draining the pools, when they found him, so they like put him in a basket and wrapped him in this like scarf and put him in the fridge, which we felt like was like, what else do you do in this situation kind of thing. And then when they got the okay for John to go to the hospital, they actually put him in the freezer, which, like, still thinking back on, just feels like a weird thing to say out loud of like, then we put our son in the freezer. But yeah, so then eventually I got to go back home, and that was my first time seeing him in person. And, I kept him in the scarf, but I got to hold him. And the day after we got back, the funeral home came out and took him, and we have a urn that's like this big.
Before we continue, I want to take a moment to share something with you. TFMR is the heartbreak that feels like no one gets, the guilt, and sacrifice, and love and horror rolled into one. The what the hell just happened? Yes, that. I know that place intimately. I've walked through this fire too, with my second, very wanted, very loved baby that was sick in pregnancy. Having to make this choice, I'm holding up big quotations here, broke something in me, and I found a way to knit those pieces back together and walk and love in the world again, bringing my baby spirit with me, not as an aside, a front and center, because this is statistically the worst thing you've ever been through in your life, and that deserves so much care. The loss of a baby, a child, dreams, hopes, and you have your hand in it. And what does that even mean? Here we answer those questions that no one else will touch. Here we give you the tools and next steps to get the care and holding you deserve as mother, as father, as parent. This is happening in the TFMR Support Sanctuary, our monthly support groups and community. Join us for $55 a month with live circles, healing audio and video transmissions specifically for this type of baby loss. You can find us at the tfmrdoula.com/join. Link will be in the show notes. Okay, let's get back to our conversation.
Yeah, big birth trauma, big medical trauma with everything that happened. How were you in the postpartum period after
Oh
all
my
of
God.
that?
I was a mess. I don't think I really learned until our daughter's healthy pregnancy and postpartum experience how much of a mess I really was. But it was like everything was a threat in my eyes. Like I couldn't baby wear my son because I was worried he would fall out or I would drop him or even my body would fail and it would injure both of us. I couldn't carry him on the stairs anywhere. There was one scenario where I needed to get upstairs and I was home alone with him and I just like held him close to me and like scooted up the stairs like one step at a time, like sobbing of like, I'm sorry, we're almost there. And both my husband and I, because like when I left in the ambulance, it was like we kind of both went on different paths. He was told, we don't know if we're going to make it. And I was obviously in the hospital. And so, we were both just like struggling in this sympathetic reactive state on and off for a few years. We did loads of therapy, basically like a house down payment in therapy over the years, which was important and saved us. And I would do it again if we needed to. But I didn't trust my body because I was, at this point I had failed, in my opinion. I mean, not now in my opinion, but then in my opinion, I had failed four of our babies. My body had failed four of our babies and then almost failed me. And so it was like I was terrified to move my body. I didn't trust my body. And again, I saw like everything as a threat, whether it was, crossing a street or literally just holding my baby while standing up. Most of the time I had to be like sitting to hold him because I was just always afraid of like dropping him or I couldn't run errands, just me and him. I mean, I could, but it was like a borderline panic attack the whole time. So yeah, it was a mess.
And through all of that, how were you dealing with the grief of Killian and also your miscarriages?
It was really tough. I feel like after losing Killian, the loss of the miscarriages became quieter. And, one of the challenging things too is Seamus and Killian were identical twins. So it was like anytime I looked at Seamus, I felt like I was getting a glimpse of Killian, especially if Seamus ever stood in front of a mirror. Then it was like I would just like start sobbing. It was like that was my only moment to see both of them is when he was in front of a mirror. Yeah, it took a while to like be able to look at my son and not see what we don't have, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Or even like we live on a block with a lot of different kids, like a lot of kids, 20 kids and a lot of siblings. And it would just like destroy both me and my husband when we would see all of them play and they would have siblings with them too. And then there's just Seamus all by himself. And, he'd be playing with them, but still he'd be like the odd man out because he wasn't running around with a sibling also. And we knew that, there was a timeline in some world where there were two of them running around. But yeah.
Did you find any grief support places that you felt could understand this type of loss?
I really struggled, honestly, because I felt like I did find a lot of places, yes, but it was like losing a twin, but it wasn't losing a twin that you had to interfere on or losing a twin after three other losses. It felt like everything was like missing something, if that makes sense, where it was like, this
Mm-hmm.
is close to my experience, but it's still like heavier than that, or it's not
Yeah.
quite that. There was some like twin support stuff that I found, but it was like, oh, this was my first pregnancy. And so it didn't fully resonate with me because it's like, well, I had three losses before this. Or, of course, I had some miscarriage or general pregnancy loss groups too. And it's like, okay, well, has anyone like lost a twin and stuff like that? And so I kind of like gave up on finding groups because it was getting really exhausting finding like close enough kind of thing. And so it really like isolated me a bit and felt really lonely. And so I just really like leaned into individual therapy versus like group
Mm-hmm.
support type of things. Yeah.
And then you went on to have some more pregnancies.
Yeah. So we decided we wanted Seamus to have a sibling. So we tried and tried, and it was pretty emotional and triggering for both of us to like be back in that headspace again. Especially for us, we were at a part where it was like being pregnant doesn't mean we get a baby. And am I putting my life at risk again? So we did eventually get pregnant. We were very ecstatic about it. And it was kind of different than any other pregnancy I had. I was having like lots of pains that were so bad it was making me throw up. And I feel like when you've had multiple losses, you kind of know all the red flags to look for. And it was once I felt the pain on only one side, I was throwing up in the bathroom. I was like scanning my body and noticed this is only on one side, damn it, kind of thing. And I went out of the bathroom and I was like, John, we have to go to the ER. Like, I'm 99% sure this is ectopic. So my mom came to watch Seamus and we went to the hospital and they wheeled me to the like maternity wing. I was about 5 weeks and they were trying to do an over the belly scan. And I was like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, way too early to do over the belly. We need to do transvaginal. And she was like, no, it's okay. We just need to make sure that there's something in your uterus. We don't need like the hyper details of transvaginal. And I'm like, well, you're the nurse. Sure. That sounds good. And she's like, here you go. There's a healthy baby measuring about 5 weeks in your uterus. Everything's good. It's probably just gas. And they sent me home. And I was kind of like, you know what? I can handle any pain if I know I'm not about to like suddenly die. That's fine with me. And so then 2 weeks later, we had our first ultrasound. They scheduled it early just because of our history. So it was just over 7 weeks. And we're doing the transvaginal ultrasound and we're telling the ultrasound tech about our time at the ER. And she was literally like, the doctor's not going to want me to tell you this, but this is ectopic. It's on your fallopian tube, or I think the way it looked, she thought it was like in my ovary or something. And she was like, this is definitely ectopic. Like there's a heartbeat and stuff, but you know, the doctor is already reviewing the screen. She's about to come in. And it was like so quick where it was like, okay, have you eaten this morning? You're going to be going into surgery. Like it had already started to bleed. So apparently I was like close to a rupture. It was not in the ovary, it was on the fallopian tube, but I had my fallopian tube removed. And it just, there was like a lot of really frustrating things about it too, because it was like, if they had caught it in the ER, I could have just taken the pill to dissolve it. But since they didn't, then I needed surgery. And so then it was like triggering for my husband because he's all in like my postpartum experience world now of his wife's being rushed to emergency surgery again around reproductive things. And then I'm sitting there feeling like it's like Killian all over again of like this baby I really wanted to hold and I'm ending its life. And I just remember being like furious the whole time of like, you guys effed up. Like I came here specifically saying it was ectopic and you told me it was gas. And now here I am like removing not just a baby now, but a part of my body. And it was pretty infuriating. And that was hard to get over too. So like after Seamus was born, I had a lot of nightmares about losing Seamus. But then after the ectopic, I had a lot of nightmares about losing my life. Luckily, no more nightmares now, but it was exhausting for a hot minute there. But I will say we immediately switched doctors. And a month later, my new doctor was like, you guys can try again if you want. And our first try, we got pregnant.
Wow.
And it was a healthy pregnancy. It felt very redemptive. I did not hemorrhage. Everything was like, minus the back of the mind anxieties of like, when is things going to go wrong kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good. And she's healthy. She was born in call, still in the amniotic sac, and it just all felt very special and redemptive finally.
Oh, oh my gosh. You've really been through it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, love, for listening, for being part of this community, for bravely taking this time for you. If you've been craving the kind of holding we've been talking about here, I would love to have a conversation with you. Schedule your Connect chat at the tfmrdoula.com/schedule-call. And that link will be in the show notes as well. Come find me. I'm here. I'm here for you.